You're listening to UCW Radio. In your face.
What we got here is a failure to communicate.
Oh, have I got your attention now?
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
You know what I mean?
Money to be made in a place like this.
Money never sleeps, pal.
You're crazy. Don't run when you lose. Don't whine when it hurts.
You know what it takes to sell real estate?
It takes brass.
I've fallen, and I can't get up!
All right, welcome back to Money Never Sleeps, the show where we touch on everything and anything, or anything and everything that impacts the flow of money from around the corner to around the world. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the potentially multi-billion-dollar legalized, not illegal, the illegal part of it is in the multi-billions, but the legalized cannabis industry. We are going to be joined by Matt Shotwell of Discovery's Weed Country. He's one of the foremost experts on this topic. That's why I wanted to bring him on the show to give his insight, because he's been through it. Some may look at him or look at the show and think that, hey, it wasn't based on facts, but actually Matt Shotwell is indeed a cannabis king. And he's lived through the turbulent times of police raids and so many different things. So he's going to be giving his insight a little bit later during the show, and I think that I think you guys are gonna. Well, I think you're gonna like what he has to say. It's just interesting industry. And also, let me tell everyone that I am now writing an exclusive commercial real estate column or content, or I'm giving exclusive content for one of the fastest growing commercial real estate platforms out there for professionals. It's called Curb Street, and you can find it at curbstreet.com. It's a major application, and it's set to be one of the leaders in information and technology for the commercial real estate industry. So make sure you check out my articles if you are involved in the commercial industry, and then you can gain some further insight. I try to help. Last week was a wet and wild ride in the markets, and we're not going to get a lot into individual stocks and what happened here, what happened there. We're not going to get into a lot of that during the show. I'll touch on it. But I'll leave the trading guidance to Pete Najarian and Jim Cramer on CNBC. That's what they do, and you can actually see their face. You can't see mine, but they're good at what they do. What they do. And these are two Wall Street veterans that have insight that can be an asset to those that are going to pay attention to them. Because listening is one thing. You have to really pay attention so you can absorb it. And look. No one person has a crystal ball, so I say this all the time. Don't take the opinion of one person as the gospel. But as an investor or a trader, you want to keep yourself well informed and learn about different perspectives from prominent, respected, and successful finance pros as these guys. You can catch Pete Najarian on Fast Money, and you can catch Jim Cramer on Mad Money. So check them out. I want to touch on some general news in the international markets that I found pretty interesting. It looks as though there have been some leeway given to a lot of lenders that failed the European Central Bank's, or the ECB's, balance sheet test. And this is something that was done here, the litmus test, the stress test, if you will. Out of 25 banks that were part of that shortfall, only 8 of them didn't satisfy the ECB's strict requirements. Now, this is based on a year-long audit, so this is not over a month; this is over a whole year, and the results just came out. So I just found this interesting, and look, at least they're making it a point to do whatever they can to prevent a debacle like this from happening again, or at least the bank's involvement anyway. Look, I mean, when all that stuff happened, and let me just give my thoughts on this. It all comes down to greed and profits. The banks need to show profits, and the situation back then allowed them to do that easily. And the bankers and the brokers, well, they wanted to get paid. They wanted the nice bonuses. They wanted the cash in the bank. So they let it happen. But now the governments have put those guidelines into place, which may make it harder for the banks to get as creative as they once used to be, well, what they used to do, with what they were able to do. But this trickles down to the first-time home buyers and the small businesses as well, because you make it harder for banks to go and do certain things. You make it harder for banks to actually lend money. It's going to trickle down to those that actually need to borrow the money. And listen, it is, and it has been getting harder for them to get those first mortgages and even get the refinancing on their existing homes. It's an interesting time we live in, and every day is a learning process. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, we're going to see how everything plays out over the next 12 to 24 months. The one country that actually was extremely proactive is Sweden. And they topped the ECB's examination. You know, it's like they wanted to win. They wanted to get 100% or an A+. They made a commitment to have the world's strictest capital requirements for the banks, and now this makes things just somewhat interesting for the rest of the world, because if they're looking to set the standard, which it seems like they're trying to do, it's going to be pretty interesting to see, you know, what countries may follow suit. No one may follow suit. I don't know. You know, but it's Sweden, so, you know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Anyway, let's move over to Japan quickly. The big players out there are taking bets against Japan, but the ones that really understand the history and see the signs, these are the people that have been through the wars, been through all that stuff, and they see the signs. What they're going to do is, at a certain point, they're going to see all of this happening as a buying opportunity. You know, listen, when the naysayers were saying all this stuff about the U.S. markets, they were saying the markets were horrible, you got to get out, you got to pull out, everything's going to collapse, we're going to go under, the market's going to go lower. The bears came out to a party, and year after year you continue to see a steady increase. You know, nothing goes up in a straight line. You got the up and the down, but it's pretty steady. The reason for that is that, you know, just as in your personal life, you don't listen to the naysayers, okay? In the global arena, you have to look at all the facts, the history, and the future. Not some doom and gloom pessimist. Man, you see them on, I don't care if it's CNBC, Fox, here, there, Bloomberg. You see them, and they're saying whatever they're saying. We're in for, you know, they're looking. They might as well have a sign saying that the world is coming to an end. Repent, repent, repent. You know, come on, please, enough already. It makes for good TV, a good TV debate anyway, but, you know, it doesn't do much to help investors make informed decisions. You know, they give them a view, which I guess is good journalism, you know, but, I mean, unless they're providing some hardcore facts and not just their opinion, you know, I take it with a grain of salt, but I would also, you know, it's also good to do your due diligence. You have to, even those that are busy. You know, make sure you have a good financial advisor that can do that for you, because you want them to provide you with the information. I'm not talking just about your run-of-the-mill broker, but someone that's actually going out there and giving you due diligence and, you know, making sure that you understand what's going on, and they can put it in a way, in layman's terms, that you get it, and that they're looking out for your best interests, and that's what it's about. All right. So now let's move into China. You know, China stocks, they posted the longest losing streak, you know, year to date. This is the fifth day actually in a row that it fell, and this doesn't have much to do with slowing down, as it has more to do with the delay of the kickoff of the Hong Kong Shanghai Boer Slink. Look, you know, the world is becoming a smaller place. There's no doubt about that. We've seen it with the New York Stock Exchange, and sooner or later we will have one global trading platform that may just be open 24 hours. So up-and-coming traders, hey, man, you know, you guys may need to sleep faster or get some serious caffeine pills. And that can be a boost for the pharmaceutical industry. Who knows? Get you something that's going to keep you up for days at a time, because that's probably what you would be looking at if you are a trader, unless you have layers of traders on board handling certain things. But as a trader, you never want to leave your trade in somebody else's hand because you don't know what's going to happen. So let's see. That's my view. This is something that they've been talking about for a long time. So let's see if that ever comes to fruition. Now, it's just to stick on China for a second. China's 1-year interest rate swaps, they traded near a 2-week high. And that's because the central bank over there, what they're looking to do is improve its policy. And by them improving their policy, it's going to be loosening up, funds, is loosening up money and getting money out there. If they loosen things up a bit, then they can put money to work. Maybe people can get loans and things of that nature, and it can get China moving in that direction. So this should be interesting. Once that starts to happen, if they start doing that, who knows what's going to happen. But I guess we'll find out. Sweden Saab, they inked a deal with Brazil to develop and produce the 36 Gripen NG fighter. Oof, the planes are going. But this is a $5.4 billion deal, which puts them back in play because they got dropped like a hot potato by Switzerland. So this actually replaces Switzerland. So that is interesting. And lastly, in Indonesia, President Joko Widodo, Widodo. We'll go with Widodo because that sounds a lot better. Anyway, President Joko, he went old school and he turned back the hands of time by turning to the old guard and making some of them the new guard. Which it's a smart move, because if you don't have the knowledge and you don't have the history and you don't have a lot of things in your favor, what do? If you're a smart person, you may not be the smartest person in the room, but you'll go and surround yourself with those smart people. So what he's done is surround himself with those with the experience that he doesn't have. And I always say it's better to have those people in your corner than trying to figure it out yourself, because you're trying to figure it out yourself. Chances are that learning curve is going to be pretty steep. So it's better to save that pain from happening. Now I want to move on to technology real quick. Silicon Valley they're not the only show in town anymore. And this is interesting. And New York has been gaining a lot of steam, but the next wave of big names, they look to be coming from an unlikely place, from Europe. Many technology entrepreneurs in Europe, what they've been doing, it's been the norm. They've been going to San Francisco, they've been going to New York, they've been going to the private equity firms and the venture capital firms and the affluent investors over there, like going to the Silicon Valley, coming to New York City and doing that. But those marathon meetings and race for cash in those areas is beginning to change for these startups. I'm going to tell you why. European investors, they're wising up. They're wising up because they're seeing so many U.S. investment firms that have made, not joking, literally billions of dollars in profits. Okay? In profits. That's a big P. By backing these startup companies. The One Spotlight is a new fund that actually came out of Germany, out of Berlin. It's called Early Bird Venture Capital. They raised about $200 million. It's a $200 million fund. I'm sure it's going to grow as the investments grow, of course. And it's focused on European startups. So now, instead of really good European startups having to trek all the way to the States, they have a fund in Europe that's flush with cash. And, they have the desire to bankroll some great companies. So this is going to be interesting. And again, the world gets a little bit smaller. And it's just to me, it's just interesting that their interest spans beyond Germany. They're looking at the UK. They're even looking at Turkey as the internet censorship begins to lift somewhat. So their impact is yet to be measured. But I suspect it's going to be substantial because now they're coming in with the funds to make stuff happen in their own backyard. Just some fun facts. Venture capitalists in the U.S. have plugged in over $7.4 billion into European startups last year alone. And this sparked a light bulb in those in Europe, as I said earlier. They were like, whoa, wait a second. Why aren't European investors of funds backing their own countrymen? So beyond early bird VC, you have UK-based Boulder Capital, and they launched a $300 million fund solely focused on European startups. So the game is changing, and Silicon Valley is not the only game in town anymore. The world is getting smaller, and investors are getting smarter. So we will see how it all falls into place. And on that note, we're going to have to take a quick break. And we will be back with you right after these quick messages. So stick with us on Money Never Sleeps.
This is Chef Gavin Murphy with your 1-minute healthy cooking tip. A lot of people are more health conscious nowadays, especially when it comes to food. But did you know there are a lot of hidden calories in, of all things, salad dressing? They're chock full of added sugars. But don't fret, I've got you covered. Try this quick and delicious salad dressing recipe. Grab a small Tupperware container with a lid and add a 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar, 2 tablespoons of whole grain or Dijon mustard, a teaspoon of organic honey, pinch of salt and pepper, and 3/4 cup of olive oil. Pop the lid on and give it a good old shake. This is spot on for a beautiful summer salad and will keep in the fridge for weeks. For more healthy cooking tips and info, go to gavinmurphy.com.
This is AP News Minute. 8 suspected Cuban migrants were rescued in the waters off Miami. U.S. Coast Guard received reports of an overturned raft in Biscayne Bay Monday morning. 3 people were rescued by a boater, as officials search for 5 more still unaccounted for. Thousands protested in Budapest in opposition of a proposed heavy tax on internet use by the government. Demonstrators held up mobile phones and threw computer parts at government buildings. The tax would force internet service providers to pay up to 62 cents per gigabyte of data downloaded by users. Extremists have tried to gain control of the Syrian border town of Kobani, as smoke was seen billowing from buildings. The Islamic State group launched its offensive to take Kobani in mid-September and has been battling Kurdish fighters ever since. 200,000 have been forced to flee to neighboring Turkey. And 22-year-old St. Louis Cardinals outfielder Oscar Taveras has died in his native Dominican Republic. Taveras crashed while driving on a highway after losing control of his vehicle. He had made his major league debut earlier this year. Emily Roseman, The Associated Press, with AP News Minute.
All right, welcome back to Money Never Sleeps, and let me just touch on this. We're seeing a slip in oil prices, but don't let that head fake sway you too much. Look, until there is more broad-based green technology providing energy on a massive scale, we will need oil. There's no doubt about it. I've spoken about it on a few times on the show already. This will change in this decade. That's for sure. But right now, oil will trade up, down, probably. You know, we're looking right now. It's at the lower end of the trading range, and I don't think that it's going to bounce too much lower. It's going to be interesting, but as technology advances, as we're going to see a change with that. Okay, now I want to look at gold. You know, I really see gold probably at the $1,000 per troy ounce bottom. Remember, a few shows ago, I gave a clinic on the troy ounce and how it's different than the regular ounce that we all know and love. But I do see gold there, and at a max, it may go to 14, maybe 1,500 per troy ounce. But, you know, I see a slip before a rise, so I do see it going down to probably 1,000. Now we're going to dive into real estate, and I want to talk about a few things. Let's see what we're going to talk about. Oh, I know what I want to talk about. I want to talk about Blackstone. Blackstone Real Estate Group. Now, they have over $80 billion under management, and what that means to you is that they have long hands and deep pockets. They have been doing a bulk of their transactions of their business in the United States and probably allocated close to $5 billion for European acquisitions. Now, their venture in the U.S. is not so much commercial properties, but they went on a warpath to gobble up as many REO and single-family deals as they could, from buying portfolios from banks to soaking up defaults by the dozens, buying notes and buying all this stuff. But they didn't just buy the property to hold on to them and say, hey, we have all this property. They did something interesting. They didn't want to just go rent them out. Of course, they did rent out a number of them, but it was for a reason. They bought them to rehab them and then to sell them. And they made this into a successful business. They bought the properties, they rehabbed it, they rented it until the market went back up, and boom, they put them on the market to sell them. Smart move. A lot of the background noise, about their business model and how it worked, there was a lot of noise about that, and they thought because they were selling them that they weren't doing well, but a lot of people don't get it. How different is this than someone flipping a property? You buy a property, you flip it, you make a profit, right? It's not much different. It's just that, they were doing it, or they do it on a massive scale. They're not buying one house, they're buying 1,000. But it does show that the business model works for now. But I do know that they will be changing their formula, because as the markets change, they'll be diving into other areas of real estate, because this fund wasn't meant to be one-dimensional. So we should see some impact in 2015 coming from Blackstone. So we got to keep an eye on that one. Now let's shift gears a little bit. According to certain reports coming from Brian Murdy, he is the National Director of Marcus and Millichap's Senior Division. Now, what he's saying is that the senior housing arena seems to be booming across the board. Booming, they use the word booming. Some of these reasons include the action in the stock market, giving seniors a level of some type of comfort and unlocking the equity in their homes to secure the continuing care services, such as a senior care facility. Now, I know that certain REITs are looking for such assets, but it's interesting as when senior housing is purchased by a REIT, let's just break this down just slightly. You're not buying a property, you are buying a business with the property. It's kind of like buying a hotel, but a little more intense than that. And that means that you have to run it as a senior facility. You're buying a business. So, the rates on that and how that balances out, you can't just go with a traditional cap rate. There's a lot more involved with that. And it's much different than buying an office or a strip mall. You understand the dynamics as it's real estate based with leases and maintenance, and you can do the math pretty simply if you have that information. But with senior housing, there are so many things involved, and every state is different. So I'm really not sure how the acquisitions of such properties or situations would heat up as much as they're saying they are. I don't know if it's more hype than anything. But between the laws, dealing with Social Security benefits and health care, all that stuff, the list goes on and on. There are a lot of things to take into consideration when looking at that. Of course, you have some investment groups that specialize in this arena, but I personally don't see this as being the big boom that Murdy says it will be or is right now. Again, there are a lot of things to consider, a lot of things to absorb when dealing with a senior housing situation. If that was your business and you were in a particular state, I get it. You understand the laws, you understand what you're dealing with. If you're doing things state to state, everything's different. You're dealing with the local government, the federal government. You're dealing with this, you're dealing with that, you're dealing with this and that and this and that. So just a lot to absorb. All right. Now I want to go over a few things in the commercial real estate arena. Let's start with Dallas, the Dallas area. That's heating up, and this just shows how much it is heating up. Arlington-based Skywalker Property Partners. They own the old Brothers Cannery factory. That factory is probably about 111 years old, and they sold it to Flint Hills Development in an unsolicited off-market transaction. I love off-market transactions. They get done quietly and they get done. The location, 1401 South Urbay Street. Now, this is in the Cedars neighborhood on the south side of downtown Dallas, and you have access to I-30, which makes it premium. Skywalker was in the middle of a plan to convert the 5-story building, and they were going to convert it into residential. But they bought I guess the units that they had there that they were going to do when Flint came in and offered to do it. The offer was so good that they had to sell. So Flint came in and bought it. And repositioning the building to a residential situation is interesting, really interesting, because there are a lot of there's a lot of redevelopment activity in the Cedars neighborhood. So if you're not familiar with the Cedars, it is one of Dallas's oldest neighborhoods, and this particular factory shut down about 14 years ago, and it sits at dead center to a number of entertainment destinations. So Skywalker, look, they were going to reposition the building and convert it into residential. But I guess the offer they got from Flint was an offer they couldn't refuse. So you can expect that either rental units or, I guess depending on what they're going to do, or condos, whatever they're going to do, will be developed soon enough by Flint. They're sure going to be. I know they're going to have to. In order to do it, it would make sense. If they had tax credits, I'm sure they're going to be taking advantage of any tax credits they can get, and possibly, because I know in Texas you have that historic preservation tax credit, they may be taking advantage of that, and depending on what they're eventually going to do, they may be eligible for employee tax credits. So, I know it's not an Empire Zone or anything like that, but it can be very interesting because they will be creating some jobs along the way. Now let's zip to Chicago, another major market turning upwards after 2 years and over $94 million. What wound up happening is that you had, the $95 million, that's at least what's on file, but Aventus Realty Trust, with the direction from Cushman Wakefield, they were snatching up some property. They snatched up an additional 620,000 plus square feet of Class A office buildings, and that's called the Columbia Center. And this is a prime example of the continued growth in the commercial arena in major markets across the nation. This was a deal that was 2 years in the making, but good things come to those who wait. So for Aventus, this brings their total portfolio, I'm going to say north of 2.1 million square feet from what I gather. And for those that were paying attention to last week's show, I mentioned that not only China, but Russia and Canada-based investment companies are gobbling up U.S. assets. Well, guess what, guys? This is one of them. Aventus is based in Vancouver, Canada. And there you have it. All right, now to New York. This isn't a huge deal, but I found it interesting nonetheless. Madison Realty Capital, a small investment firm, they completed the acquisition of West Chelsea Elevator Building. And it's a residential building, of course, 6 stories, not a walk-up. Woohoo! A relief for the residents. They have an elevator. It's approximately 30,000 plus square feet of space. And the reason I say that this 36-unit residential building is interesting is because with the High Line in full swing, and there are a number of residential towers being erected as we speak. Because they use the area of West Chelsea and everything. I mean, you have one real Chelsea. And now, with the advent of West and East and this and that, they're creating little sub-neighborhoods around there because the real Chelsea, you're prevented from building above a certain height. You have a lot of you have historic preservation, you have height restrictions, everything else. But on the other end, where they're considering West Chelsea, that you can actually build up. So it's interesting. Okay, but yeah, so I think that what they did, the area is increasing in value, and it's going to continue to increase, and I don't see that momentum slowing down on the commercial development end. So Madison, they may have had made a good score on this one for the price tag of about $22 million. Now, next week, we're going to touch on some other areas that are booming throughout the United States, and I feel as the growth is not going to slow down, because you have more and more, you have more and more. The government is trying to figure out how to get small business in motion and create more viable jobs. Commercial real estate does that. What it does, when you're building office spaces and warehouse, industrial, all this stuff, you're creating jobs. Because you have somewhere for a business to actually be, and jobs are created. So we're going to touch on that next week, and some more things next week. So it's going to be interesting. On that note, we're going to be taking a short break, and we're going to come back with Discovery Channel's Weed Country star, Matt Shotwell, as we touch on cannabis and much more. So stick with us on Money Never Sleeps. We'll be right back.
Your platform for success. Chosen by industry leaders worldwide. Curb Street, advanced real estate technology.
Hi, my name is Peter May of London Central Properties, and we're based in Cavendish Square, which is close to Regent's Park. The majority of my work experience has been in sales, in particular the hotel and hospitality industry, both in the UK and overseas. London Central Properties is an established company with a global presence and a high reputation for service and discretion. We specialise in the sale of high-value, off-market apartments, houses, hotels and investments. We have recently opened a new division specialising in the provision of service departments which cover the full spectrum from budget to exclusive. These apartments are suitable for both leisure and corporate clients and are located in the key areas of London, including Mayfair, Knightsbridge, Kensington and Bayswater. For further information, please refer to our website, which is www.londoncentralproperties.com. We have now established an exclusive partnership with the host of Money Never Sleeps, Mr. Louis Velasquez.
All right, welcome back to Money Never Sleeps, and we are set to bring on our special guest. We're talking cannabis, we're talking about the business, we're talking about legalization, we're talking about it all, and he is the Cannabis King. So straight from Discovery Channel's Weed Country, let's bring Matt Shotwell on the show.
Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes on the hillside, little boxes on...
Matt, how's it going? Welcome to Money Never Sleeps. How's it going over there?
Oh, it's going great, man. I'm blessed. Can't complain. Thanks for having me on the show, dude.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you have a busy schedule and you have a lot of things going on, but, your input on the cannabis industry and what's going on and with the possible job creation and all that stuff is important.
It's all those things, man. It's a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but doing my part and hopefully the little things that I do and contribute to the bigger picture of the cannabis movement in some way. That's the plan.
Well, I mean, this is something that has been kind of developing, and people have been pushing for it, with the legalization of marijuana for a number of reasons. People know you from Weed Country on TV, which is pretty cool. and but you actually do this in real life.
Yeah, that is true. A lot of people always wonder, is it real? Is it not real? And I'm like, well, everything about me in the show is real, and the things that I went through is real. But, there's television elements that, sometimes are lies, but that's standard in any reality TV show. We want to make it a good show for the viewer. You know what I mean? Sometimes documentaries are boring, and full-on reality is too fake, and so we kind of have that reality docu-series kind of thing going on with Weed Country, so it's a good hybrid.
Yeah, well, it's good, but it paints a picture of what really is out there, though, because this stuff really happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just one of thousands of people that have been raided, you know what I mean? I just was lucky enough to have a camera crew following me in all of my pursuits before I was raided, because my goal was to make a marijuana reality show, and so I had a camera crew following me for like 2 years, and it finally paid off when the DEA and the police department showed up, and I got to document it all. So I kind of just feel lucky to be able to be the voice for thousands of people that have been raided, been to jail, been falsely, accused of committing crimes and stuff like that. So, I speak for a lot of people, I hope. I know my situation was unique with a dispensary and all, but a lot of people have gone through a lot of crap. So.
Well, it's kind of like, and I made last week on the show, I was talking about, you had Prohibition, you had the Volstead Act, and when they were trying to ban alcohol and the stuff that happened, and you saw all the people that went to jail for a long time during that period. And here right now you have people that spent, you have some people that probably spent 10, 20 years in jail for marijuana, so it's interesting how things develop.
It is, and that breaks my heart to hear that there's still people in jail right now for marijuana, and, hopefully before President Obama gets out of office, he'll, do the right thing and make some executive order. That might be asking a lot of him, but, I think that's the right thing to do, is to let people with nonviolent crimes that are in jail for just cannabis things out.
Yeah, if you think about it, it's not a violent crime at all. People, you have, you make something illegal, you can have a lot of smuggling going on. You can have a lot of people trying to, capitalize on it. This is how you had a lot of, mobsters back in the 20s. They became wealthy and they became powerful because of Prohibition.
Yeah, if you make something, restrict its access to people, it gains value, supply and demand. So, if they just tax and regulate and don't litigate, it would be a much different landscape regarding, crime and commerce and all those factors.
Yeah,
slowly, change is slow.
Yeah. Well, I think people have a twisted perception of the cannabis movement. They think it's a whole bunch of people that just want to get high and that's it. But it's more than that. And maybe you can kind of give us some broad strokes on that.
Yeah, well, a lot of new people are entering the business, which are kind of, I know and hope, are watering down the stereotypes that have been, carried on for the last 20 years. Like you mentioned, people just want to get high. It's a big party. People that can't do anything else are just doing it. And there are some of those people, but that's in every industry. There's bad apples in every industry. So I think we have an uphill battle to prove to the American public that this is a good business. It can be a good business if we just work on it. We just put some effort into regulation and some oversight and education. My role in that, education through entertainment. Some people agree with that, some people don't, but that's just my course of action is through entertainment.
Well, but
change people's or at least open their minds and get the discussion going. So.
Well, I think it's a smart thing because, again, with the show, you're showing stuff that actually really does happen, and it gives a different, perspective, so people kind of understand that, hey, you have good people that are doing certain things, and these are the reasons why they're doing it, and so on and so forth. It kind of walks you through, because I remember watching the show. It kind of walks you through certain things with the farmers and everything else, and what they do, and the old timers, which made me laugh. They've been doing it for like 100 years, but it gives them, a little reality of what's out there, because a lot of people aren't exposed to this.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, it's kind of like a foreign country up there in weed country in that, they live, they have a certain way of life that is different than 90% of how America lives their life. I mean, most of their economy, 90% of the economy up there is reliant on cannabis, either directly or indirectly. And so that is just a way of life that is foreign to so many people, but it's working and it is sustaining and employing, tens of thousands of people and generating billions of dollars in cannabis that gets shipped and sent all over the country. So I think people are finally starting to, see the light, like, hey, man, maybe we should start paying attention to this cannabis business and, stop ignoring it because it's not going away. Let's just figure it out,
Yeah, it's here, and the way, look, and I talked about it last week on the show as well, that this is potentially, a multi-billion-dollar revenue-generating business. And you're doing a few things, and you're creating jobs because you're creating jobs because people have to work, and they're working in the cannabis arena. You're paying taxes, and basically you're helping to grow the economy just in a unique way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That was always one of my biggest talking points. It's all about the jobs for me. People don't have places to work, especially in my city in Vallejo. There's just not really any economy there, and now there's 30-some dispensaries. And so, there's bud tenders, there's security guards, there's secretaries. And we all know this time of year, Croptober, there's, people come from all over the country to trim and be a trimmer up in weed country in Humboldt. And they'll stay on a farm for, months at a time, trimming up hundreds of pounds of weed,
And they're getting paid. They have a job, and they're serving a purpose, and it's helping to kind of move that machine a little further, And it's just interesting how the legality of the whole deal falls into place because they may be legal in the statewide, but federal they're not. So it's kind of odd on how they would try to fix this. I don't know how they would, but somebody should do something.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to have to come down to some type of executive order from the president on the way out, or the DEA rescheduling cannabis would be a huge, huge thing. So I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, the next 2 years are going to be interesting. Other states are coming along. Florida's talking about it. Maryland just on October 1st. I believe 10 grams. You can be in possession of up to 10 grams, and it's just a ticket in the state of Maryland, which is great because I'm from Virginia, and that's just a hop over the right over the border there. So state by state, one domino at a time.
Yeah, and it's definitely a little by little situation. I do know that the states that do have this legalized, you go and you see how they have everything set up. It's set up as a business. Because it is a business. You're set up as a business, and you want to pay your taxes, you want to employ people, and you do it in a way that's not someone selling it on the corner.
Yeah, that's we're trying to get away from that whole thing, and I think people just have the whole not in my backyard mentality. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, yeah, I support dispensaries and people having access, but I don't want the pot shop in my backyard for my kids to see or in my city. It's like the whole nuclear reactor. Everybody wants cheap, good, clean power, but nobody wants the nuclear power plant in their town. Right. So people are just going to have to get used to it, and it's going to take some time. People are hesitant to change, and they believe what they believe. So we have a responsibility in the cannabis community to try to maybe put our best foot forward and change those perceptions.
Well, I think that's going to have to happen, and I go back, and I'm going back to Prohibition, when the Volstead Act was enacted, it had to do with religious groups pushing and saying that alcohol was the devil, and they pushed for that, and that's part of what's probably holding back, the legalization of cannabis, throughout the United States.
Well, yeah, I would agree with you. And there's a lot of people that have an interest in keeping cannabis illegal. And some of them are ones that you wouldn't even think at first. I mean, I know a lot of attorneys that would prefer it stay illegal because they are cannabis attorneys. And as soon as you legalize it, there goes a large chunk of their customer base. Mm-hmm. So they have no interest in legalizing it unless they can, restructure the type of law that they practice and start focusing on, like, business law for marijuana business instead of criminal defense over marijuana. So it's going to take a shift in mindset from people across the whole scope of the industry.
Yeah, you're going to lose a lot of souls. No more Breaking Bad there.
Right, yeah.
But yeah,
no more souls.
Yeah, but you're right about that, because at the end of the day, when things change, you got lawyers, you got other, other entities that will lose business. So yeah, I can see that as being one of the stops in it. But I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think that they can keep stopping this. I think at some point someone has to pull the trigger, because you're talking about adding to the economy, adding jobs where people don't want to work at McDonald's, but they can go make a good living there. And this is what I believe too. If someone is in the cannabis business, they're making money. Like, you look at Cheryl Schumann. All right, she's a Beverly Hills cannabis queen, right? So,
right.
But when you're in this business, there's a thing, and I know there's a thing of diversification, where you already know that you're going to get that money and you're going to put it to work elsewhere. So now you're creating other business, small business, things like that. And I think a lot of things, positive things, can come out of it.
Absolutely. I mean, my business was doing really well, and I employed about 5 to 15 people depending on the season, mm-hmm. and we were also able to hire a camera crew. You know what I mean? And that was what resulted in Weed Country being started and partnering with other producers. And if you got cash flow, you can make things happen. Not just in cannabis, you can spin it off into other kind of businesses too.
Yeah, and then you become the Mark Cuban of the cannabis industry.
Yeah,
like a Shark Tank type of thing. And also with the cannabis industry, what's happening now, you have a lot of startup companies that are being developed to create things for the cannabis industry.
Yeah, the picks and the shovels is where a lot of people like to make their money, and it's a great business model because you don't have the legal liability. You're not really on the front lines. It's like on the gold rush. It's not so much the gold panthers that made all the money. It's the people selling the picks and the shovels and the blue jeans and things like that. So the garden supply stores, the trimmers, the Home Depots, those places they all cash into the ancillary supporting businesses of the marijuana industry.
Yeah, but nobody talks about that stuff. But meanwhile, that's also helping the economy.
It is. I mean, where people are building these grow rooms. We've got electricians and plumbers and HVAC guys, and people are being put to work, and I think people just don't realize how much of the economy, at least in California and these other states, is stimulated by the cannabis industry. But they're going to learn.
Well, and I think that's going to come to light, because a lot of people don't talk about that. When you have, like, housing's booming now, when that slows down, what happens? Again, as you said, the electricians, the plumbers, the this, the that, they need work. So now you're creating situations where they're getting to work and to do other things beyond, your construction and stuff and having little repairs. They're actually able to build these, I guess these units to grow cannabis.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of laborers and people in different trades that they do side work out for people in the marijuana business. They're a professional electrician by day, and then on the weekends they wire up grow rooms, for cash under the table. If the cities would just put in a permitting process to have the city inspector come by, and they can pay their little fee, I think a lot of people in the industry would be glad to have their basement grow certified by their city and pay them a couple $100 and not have to worry if they're going to come. Let everyone participate and contribute, and so it doesn't have to be so adversarial and cagey. Like, oh, I'm trying to hide. I don't even know that I'm growing. There's a lot of that fear in the industry, and it doesn't really help anything.
No, I mean, the thing is, do you blame them? Nobody wants to go to jail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we just got to get that. There's that sword of Damocles that's like always hanging over the head of people in the marijuana industry. It's like, when is it going to drop? And when do you go to jail? It's not a matter of if, it's like when, depending on what state you're in, what, how big you are. And, I was the result of that myself.
Yeah,
so it's not fun.
No, and it happens. And one other thing with legalizing cannabis, that it'll stop the smuggling of that from out of the country here.
Yeah, Mexico, they send a lot of crappy weed into the middle of America, and we produce the best cannabis in the world here in America. We should be sending it into Kentucky, not the cartels, and the majority of the cartels' finances comes from marijuana. A large portion of it comes from marijuana, and if we can just take that away, and then that would cripple them in a way, but a lot of people don't see it that way.
No, but you know what? Because no one wants to. They want to see, oh, well, you're going to destroy our youth. You're going to destroy our children. Just because something's legalized doesn't mean they can do it. If it's legalized, more so, they won't do it because it's no fun to do something that's legal.
Yeah, exactly. There's always that lure and luster of, it's illegal, so I want to try it,
Yeah, that's what it is. But Matt, you've been how many seasons did you do Weed Country for?
Say that again.
How many seasons? Weed Country. How many seasons?
We just did the one season. It was just a 6-episode series. That's all it was designed to be. And what I'll be following up with is something called the Shotwell Chronicles. And it's just going to be more of a YouTube series following me and my entourage and what we do in the cannabis industry, work, play, social, home life, business life, and just, basically just following me around, because people are always asking me, what are you up to? What's it like? What do you do every day? So I was like, well, you know what? Let's just put little 3-minute minisodes together. And so that's my current follow-up, because Discovery Channel just decided they only wanted to do one season of it, and that's all they wanted to do. And so, on to the next project. And so I'm pitching some other television shows this month, actually. And hopefully I will have some good news for you in about a month, and I can come back on the show and tell you what's going on.
Yeah,
but I'm working on a show with my family out of Virginia, but it doesn't have anything to do with marijuana. It's just about the family business. So I'm hoping that show gets picked up, and then I can put the whole Shotwell family on TV.
Oh, my God, that's going to be crazy. That's going to be crazy. Get everybody out there. But
yeah, I want to put the whole family on. I got to share the limelight a little bit. And I come from a family of entrepreneurs and small business people. And so that's how I learned how to run a small business, which I carried over into the dispensary operations. And so now I'm going to try to get a television show about my entire family business. It's called, the working title is Restoring the Shotwells, but it's about our furniture and antique restoration business in Virginia that my family's had since 1973, about 40 years. And I worked there, all my siblings worked there, all my aunts and uncles, and, standard drama ensues at a small family business, bickering between siblings and relatives and things like that. So I'll let you know here within the month if we get picked up and which network we'll be on.
Oh well, I have no doubt you're gonna have some positive news, and we're gonna bring you back on to talk about it. Now and congratulations on that, and on doing that. See, again, a lot of people have it. They just have the whole cannabis industry twisted, because if you have entrepreneurs that are jumping in here, and there's a lot of money to be made, and hopefully they'll go and make the right decision to do it the right way, because if you don't regulate it, it's going to get done anyway. Regulate it. Put people to work.
That was my phrase.
Yeah.
Don't litigate, tax and regulate.
There you go.
That's the Vallejo City Council many, many times, and they seem to like that little catchy phrase. Don't litigate, tax and regulate. It makes sense.
Yeah, I like it. Well, they Congress and Senate, they like money. The politicians like the money coming into the community. So there you go. Doesn't mean that everyone's going to be a pothead. That's the reality.
Yeah, and my next thing that I'm doing is I'm doing my first international gig. I'm speaking at the Cannabis in Prague, Czech Republic, on November 8th.
Oh, nice.
They just asked me to be a speaker, and last year, Steve D'Angelo, director of Harborside Health in Oakland, the biggest dispensary in America, everyone's probably seen it. They were on Weed Wars before Weed Country. He was their speaker last year, and this year they've asked me to be their speaker. So I'm flying out there on the 5th of November. And I got to put together a little speech. I'm going to be talking to them about how to lobby your local legislature or your city governments on legalization. And, they want to know what I did and what the formula was and what worked and what didn't work. So it's good that people are asking questions, and I feel good about being able to share my experiences. And overseas is going to be another whole thing, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, you've been to Amsterdam, I know, because I know I have, and that's an interesting. It's interesting how they deal with it over there, and they make.
It is. It's an ongoing social experiment, and it doesn't seem like the world's caving in and crumbling. So I think everyone just needs to take a deep breath and relax.
Everybody's calm over there.
Yeah, everyone's chilled out. I know.
Everybody's chilled.
Everyone needs to have more of the Colorado mindset, I think, across the country. Things would be a little bit better.
Yeah. On the Chronicle deal you're doing, how can people watch that?
So we, the first minisodes will be coming out here in about a month, and it'll be on YouTube. And once I get the first couple minisodes out, I'll come back on here and tell you where people can watch it. It'll just be on YouTube, free for everybody. So that's where.
All right, cool. Then we'll bring you on. You'll of course you'll have an open invite to come talk about this stuff, But I know you have a lot of things to do there, Matt. So I don't want to hold you, But I appreciate you coming on and talking about the cannabis industry and talking about the stuff that you're doing. But we're gonna have you on. We're gonna have you on when you come out with the Shotwell family deal. After you get everything done, come on. We're gonna talk about that. Maybe bring one of your family members on the show.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to do that. So I'll just stay in touch. When I get back from the Cannabis overseas, I'll let you know how it went, and we'll chop it up, and I'll keep you guys in the loop on what I'm up to.
Excellent. All right, Matt, stay with us. And for our listeners, just stay with us as well. We're going to be back on Money Never Sleeps right after this quick break.
So I want to urge all my fellow New Yorkers, pay attention to the facts. Don't give in to fear. Don't give in to hype. So let me explain. The personnel at Bellevue right now go through, by the way, extraordinary training for this kind of situation. They've gone through specific training for Ebola. They take extraordinary precautions. They then, at the end of their shift, go home to their communities. The only way that there would even be a cause for concern is if one of them were to have any symptoms. To date, none have. I think one of the things to acknowledge here is this is a ever-changing situation. And all levels of government are adjusting their strategies at all times. We have to be smart about how we do it. Again, what happened with Nurse Hickox was unacceptable and was unfair to her and disrespectful to a hero. By any normal logic and by the numbers, the vast majority of people in this context of this country's healthcare system who provided care had no negative impact from providing care, went on about their lives, interacted with their families and community. There's been no consequence.
Your platform for success. Chosen by industry leaders worldwide. Curb Street, advanced real estate technology.
Hi, everyone. John and Pete Najarian here at the NASDAQ with some news you do not want to miss.
As option floor traders, CNBC contributors, and co-founders of OptionMonster.com, people always want to know our secrets for trading the options.
So we wrote an entire book on it.
A limited
and today,
number of
to
these
celebrate
books
the book
for
launch,
free.
we're giving away a limited number of these books for
Learn how
free.
you can use
All you have
options
to do
like
is
we
cover
do to
shipping
make
and
more
handling.
income with
Learn
less
how
capital.
you can use
to
options
reduce like we do to make more
and
income with less
regardless
capital.
of which way the market's moving. It's and to make money regardless of which way the market's moving.
We're giving it away to you
right here in this book.
Equity options today are hailed as one of the most successful financial products to be introduced in modern times. One of the most successful financial products to be introduced in modern times.
This one book could dramatically increase your investment return. This one book could dramatically increase your investment return.
And today it's free.
So pick up that phone and call now.
Call 1-800-961-1923 for your free book. Call now. 1-800-961-1923. Call now.
All right, welcome back to Money Never Sleeps, and that's going to wrap it up for this week. I think we covered a lot of stuff, and, we're going to get into the cannabis industry additionally in the coming weeks. And we're going to, I said this on a couple of shows back, that we're going to start, we want to bring some people on to actually speak about the SB5 situation. So we want to bring on some authorities on that as well. All right, so this is what we're going to be hopefully lining up soon. But I want to give a little shout out to my team, my national team. A lot of great people coming along, and we're going to be doing a lot of great things out there. So I appreciate their the dedication. I appreciate all the work that they're about to do and that they are doing. And it's going to be an amazing ride. All right, but anyway, that's about it for this show. And make sure you join us next week as we bring on another interesting guest, and we're going to be adding some other components to this, to the show, to make it more of value to our listeners. Okay, thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back with you next week, and hope that everyone has an extremely profitable week, and we'll be back here, same bad time, same bad channel.
Initiating shutdown sequence.
You're listening to UCW Radio. In your face. What is your major malfunction?
So let it be written. So let it be done.
Ladies and gentlemen, my mother thanks you, my father thanks you, my sister thanks you, and I thank you.